Okay, so I'd like to actually create this video so that you can hear me talking as we move through the counseling theory syllabus. And I think that should be a lot more understandable. So I'm using this program, and hopefully you're able to follow me as I move through the theory syllabus. So this class was normally a 15-week face-to-face class, and I did agree to teach it in the summer in 10 weeks, which is difficult to do by itself, but it's never been online for as long as I've been at CalU. So one of the challenges was to fit it into 10 weeks, and the other challenge is now to put it online. So I'm going to be using a combination of teaching methods, and one is to simply record my lectures for you so that you can actually watch my lecture just like if you were in class. I think that's a little more personable, and I'm also going to upload all of my notes so that you can download them and use them as a study guide, not only for my tests, but for the comps and for the NCE as well. There are a few differences between the 15-week course and the 10-week online course, and I did remove one of the video assignments just because I think it would be very problematic to ask students to create videos and upload those videos, and I wanted to try to keep this as stress-free for you as possible, although there is a lot to memorize for the exams, but that I think is enough stress for you. So the best way to reach me is through my CalU email, and I think I try to check that 2 or 3 times a day minimum. So eliason@calu.edu. If you need me, if it's an emergency, I'm pretty flexible for these classes. So, but don't use the office phone because nobody is on campus right now, or the secretary's phone. This home phone, that is my cellular phone, and if you need to, you can text me. So that should cover the contacts. If you need to have a meeting with me, we can always speak over the phone or on Zoom, and I do that quite a bit now. So no specific office hours, but I will make time for you whenever you need me. Okay, so there's no prerequisites. This is one of our first 4 courses. It's a required course for candidacy. And all of these course objectives, we model this course after the KCREP objectives for national accreditation. So you can look over those yourself, but in my mind, the most important objectives are for you to gain a foundational knowledge of counseling theory. But I'm also hoping that in the future, throughout the program and your career, you will build upon the depth of that knowledge by reading more textbooks, not even textbooks, but original books by those theorists. And I'm just hoping that maybe you'll read a couple for candidacy. If you like a couple of these theorists, why not dig a little deeper and read one of their primary texts? So another thing is that it will help to prepare you for all of those larger exams, and it will help to prepare you for practicum and field as well. So that's when you'll really be working with clients for the first time. And I want to make sure that you have at least a foundational knowledge of these theories. Catalog description is here. Let's see. So I try to use a number of different methodologies for teaching. I try to provide my own case examples through my own experiences in both school and clinical mental health. I have a lot of experience in both of those areas. I try to provide actual videos. Now, the videos that you'll watch online are different than the videos that I show at CalU, and that's because of copyright issues. So at CalU, I actually have videos of the classic Gloria tapes and Linda tapes, which show early counseling sessions with a woman named Gloria and a woman named Linda. But I would say about 80% of all of these theorists I have tapes for. So, but I can't post them online because of copyright issues. But you can look them up on YouTube. They are posted regularly. I'm not sure whether it's legal or not, but I don't post them. But you can find them pretty easily. But I will supplement with our own videos of as many of these original theorists as I can. It might be an interview with Rogers rather than a counseling session, but I just want you to get to know these original theorists by being able to watch them speak and hopefully work as well. I have included a presentation, but like I said before, we will not be requiring a presentation in the summer just because of both time and all of the issues with videotaping it. Maybe we'll include that in the future. That allows you to actually apply your knowledge to a case scenario. But you will be writing a paper, and you also will be posting on the discussion boards, and that's something we don't normally do during the face-to-face semesters. And that lets me touch base with you on a weekly basis to see how you're doing, to see if you're understanding the material, and to interact with you. Because we are not using Zoom, I like interacting with students, but we're not able to on D2L unless we have a specific class time, and then we can all log on at the same time. This adds more flexibility if we do not use Zoom. You can log on whenever you're available and go through the material. But it does cut down on that interaction where we can just talk with one another about the theories. The last thing is we have to use some exams, and we'll talk about them in a few minutes. So the textbook here is Theory and Practice of Counseling and Psychotherapy, and you can use any of the later editions. If you don't buy the brand new edition, you can buy one of the older editions. I would say like the 8th, 9th, or 10th edition would be fine. These theories don't change. Most of these individuals have passed away, and the theory itself, they're classic theories. So you won't be missing anything if you buy a used textbook that's an older edition, and hopefully that'll save you some money. The only thing I request is that if you're ordering a textbook, if you can get it fairly inexpensively, pay the extra for quick shipping so you don't fall behind. Please, even though I will provide notes and video lectures and everything else, please read each chapter. And for a number of reasons. I do use different exams. So face-to-face, I usually use a fill-in-the-blank exam because I hand grade them. But online, I use a multiple-choice exam that was created by Gerald Corey, who wrote the book. And I use all different questions for both exams. I think it's a fair correlation between the exams. The fill-in-the-blank, you do have to memorize a little more specifics. You can't guess as easily as with a multiple choice. But the multiple choice is also drawn directly from the chapters. And I do not teach directly from the book. I teach you the theory, and I do teach toward what I think you'll need to know as a therapist in practicum, and I do try to include everything in the comps and the NCE, but in order to do well on the exams, you will have to study both my notes and the book for the online multiple choice test. All right. That's the only required textbook. If you could buy a case book, or you could buy a workbook, but you don't have to. As we move through the course, I will mention other supplemental textbooks and that you can read, and any of these books that I mention that are written by these theorists, you can read, and you can also read them for candidacy. They do fulfill that requirement. You cannot read a textbook, but you can read an original book that one of these theorists wrote. Okay, so let's talk about the course requirements and how it's going to be assessed. Even though we don't meet at a specific time, please try to get your discussion board posts posted on time. They're usually due on Wednesday night at 10 p.m. And then I ask that you have 2 responses to other students' texts, posts, by Friday night at 10 p.m. So your original post, and please make it your original post. Try to include as much as you can in those posts. Talk about the chapter in the book, talk about my lecture, talk about any supplemental readings or videos that I post. And I want to hear your reaction, not just a summary of the information. I want both. So I want to understand that you actually accessed and read and watched the material. So I want you to kind of refer to different parts of it as you're speaking. But I also want your personal reaction, and it's okay to disagree. You might not like some part of a theory. That's okay. But if you don't like something, then please tell me how you would fix it as well. And we're looking, for a few paragraphs, not just a few sentences, for these Wednesday night posts for the discussion board. Try to have all those readings done, of course, before Wednesday night so that you can talk about them in your discussion board posts. So this is number 3, presentation guidelines. You can read through it, but this is not required during the summer online semester. So I'm not going to go over it right now. The exams, we're going to have 2 exams. I usually have 3. I just divide up the information differently. But I think you can handle it because it's going to be multiple choice. And it's only 10 weeks instead of 15. So instead of every 5 weeks having 3 exams, we're going to have one on the 5th week and one on the 10th week. So the information will be divided equally. And of course, we just talked about the discussion boards. So here we have how this course is evaluated. And, of course, it's required to complete all the readings in the book and the case studies and handouts. And the notes that I provide are extensive. For each week. So please, it's not just a simple package of notes. I include articles from journals that I've written. I include chapters that I've written. I include definitions for the ACA Encyclopedia of Counseling that I've written. So I really would like you to read those each week. So, complete all the readings and be able to talk about them and the lectures in your discussion boards. So you do not have to do the class presentation. The discussion boards are 10 points each. The very first week you're going to have 2. One is just introducing yourself, and one is for the first week's assignments. So you're going to have 2 the first week, so they're worth a total of 100 points. You're going to have a written paper at the very end, and you're going to have 2 exams. And the total is 300 points, and basically you can get 10% wrong and still get an A. 20% is a B, 30% is a C. If you're a graduate student in the counseling department, you cannot get lower than a B, or you will have to retake the course. And the only assignment I still want to go over is the paper. I skipped that, so let's go back and go over the paper, but that's not due until the last day of class. So please follow these guidelines for APA style. You'll be using these APA guidelines for every counseling class. So 6 to 8 content pages. So it's 6 pages of written and then 1 title page, and then you don't need an abstract and 1 reference page. And make sure it's all in APA style. Only 1-inch margins, only double spaced. Font Times New Roman, 11 or 12 pitch. So don't increase spacing. Don't do any of that. This is graduate school, you know. Use the APA guidelines. Now, everybody asks me questions, and we'll go over all of this again. But primary theorist. So what type of references do you use? Well, 2 from the primary theorist. So if you're talking about Rogers, you need to write a couple citations from something that Rogers wrote from 2 sources. Secondary sources are by professionals in the field, but they don't have to be the original theorist. Maybe somebody did a study, maybe somebody applied a theory to a certain population in therapy and saw how it worked. So you do have to cite a reference in order to put it on the reference sheet. Please do not use internet sites, do not use textbooks, nothing like that. Just professional journals or the original books by the theorist. So all of your references and citations are going to be in part 2 of the paper. So please just follow the outline and you'll do fine. You could even label it part 1, part 2, part 3. If you get down to the end of part 1 and you're at half a page, please don't leave that all blank and go on to the next thing and start with part 2 at the top of the next page. We don't want any white spaces. So use the space appropriately. So you're going to start with the title page. You can use an abstract. It doesn't count as a page as far as your total, but you don't have to have the abstract. Part 1. So it used to be chapter 2, but it's somewhere in the first 3 chapters, and Corey makes a list of personal characteristics of effective counselors. Apply them to yourself. I'm going to have you do that this very first week, and then as we move through this whole semester, I want you to review it again at the end and include it in your final paper. But talk about every characteristic, whether you have that characteristic, whether you are fantastic at it, or whether you need to work on it, and then tell me how you're going to improve. Not just that you're going to improve. Tell me, well, how are you going to go about getting better? Are you going to go to counseling? Are you going to read about it? What are you going to do to get that characteristic, to enhance that? That could be the full length of the paper, but that should really be a very short part of the paper. I want the largest part of the paper to be part 2. Choose one theory to use as your personal theoretical foundation. It should be a theory that we've covered in the book. And once again, you are not teaching or writing about this theory. We've already covered that. This is not a paper about the theory. I want you to describe why you chose this theory personally. How does it fit your personality? And how does the theory fit you as an individual? How it fits you as a counselor? What are the positive features of this theory? And what needs improvement? So talk about how this theory will be applied by you to maybe people you want to work with, a population. Why do you think it works as a therapist? How would you improve the theory? Things like that. Part 3, what's your personal reaction to the course? But that's brief. This assignment. But most importantly, what do you see your role as in the future field of counseling? And how do you see all this coming together for you? So, and then a summary and conclusion. Okay. And we talked a little bit about the exams, the discussion boards, the grades. Please don't plagiarize. Everything needs to be quoted or your own words. Or cited. If you have any disability at all, please contact the Office for Students with Disabilities, and they will contact me, and I will accommodate you any way that you need to be accommodated. It's no problem. We will work it out together. Here's a lot of different resources for you if you need to contact any. This is about integrity and civility, And if you share something, or if one of your classmates shares maybe an example, please respect their confidentiality. Also be respectful to one another. And as far as portfolios, we may be switching to something other than live text, so you don't have to upload anything this summer. In the fall, we'll contact you and let you know what program to buy. So don't buy anything right now. And but you make sure you save your final paper and you write a 1-paragraph description of something that you have learned that you can take with you and use as a therapist from this class. This is not a class evaluation. They are separate. This is something that you can take with you as a therapist, something meaningful. Even the worst class you can gain something positive from. And this is our conceptual framework. And then we move into student learning outcomes from KCREP again. And here we have our tentative due dates. And so I know you haven't read chapters 1 through 3, but try to read them throughout this week. Talk about them. I just want to point out that it says presenters. Nobody's going to be presenting because we are not doing that assignment in the summer. The first exam, I wanted to complete week 5, so we're going to have that on week 6, and so that we can include week 5 in that exam. And then the second exam, they're not cumulative. The first exam covers weeks 1 through 5. The second exam covers weeks 6 through 10. And unfortunately, the final paper is also due on week 10. You don't need this last evaluation. That is an evaluation for the presentation, which we will not be doing in the summer. If you have any questions, please email me, and I will do my best to clarify. Thank you.